Okay, welcome to the 2022 King's Washington Area Alumni Club's Career Day program. My name is John Wetterow, and I'm a member of the King's College class of 1970. I'm also a proud member of the King's College Washington Area Alumni Club's Executive Committee, which we call ourselves KWAC, KWAC. And I'm happy to welcome each of you, students, presenters, alumni, friends, and King staff to our second virtual KWAC Career Day program. KWAC Career Day is traditionally hosted here in Washington, D.C. by the KWAC Executive Committee. For many years, the exciting program has provided a wide range of professional opportunities to King students, thanks to the generosity of many King's D.C. area alumni and friends, many of whom are presenting and or observing these sessions this year. If you haven't already, please be sure to mute yourself while our presenters are speaking. There will be time for questions and answers at the end of each session, so save your questions for that time. And when you do have a question, feel free to unmute and ask it. Or in the meantime, you can always put it in the chat feature of the presentation. This year, we have 6 terrific sessions scheduled for this year's Career Day. 2 tonight, 2 tomorrow night, and 2 on Thursday. This first session is titled Navigating the Federal Workspace. To begin, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the session, Jeremy Sands. Jeremy is a King's College graduate from the class of 1997, and he also serves on the King's KWAC Executive Committee. Turn it over to you, Jeremy.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you for that warm introduction. Well, hello, Monarchs. Thank you for joining us. We're really excited that you're able to be here tonight and partake in some wonderful information on how to accelerate your career. In this session, we've got some fantastic guests. Another King's alumni and fellow roommate of mine, Justin Fazzari, and from the Office of Personnel Management, Mr. Lawrence President. We'll get into the introductions here in a second, but just a couple little housekeeping notes, as John said. If you do have a question, put it in the chat, and Beth or John will let me know while I'm presenting, and we'll take a short pause and let you know what feedback we have. With that, we'll get started. So again, like John said, my name is Jeremy Sands. I'm class of 97. Grew up in Pittston, Pennsylvania, right close by to our alma mater here. After that, I served 6 years in the U.S. Army. From the U.S. Army, went on into coaching and pursued a bunch of other advanced degrees. I've got a MA from Columbia University Teachers College in Organizational Development and an MBA from University of Maryland. I'm currently a project manager for Collins Aerospace out of Annapolis, Maryland, and help serve the KWAC committee. With that, I'll pass it over to Justin for a quick introduction from Justin.
Hi, Justin Fazzari, class of 99. After I graduated from King's with a business degree, I went on to grad school and studied political science and public policy, and that led me into the federal government. Worked in Washington, D.C. For about 5-6 years, and then moved out to Colorado to take another federal job opportunity, and that's where I'm stationed today. And I'll get a little bit more into that during the presentation. So with that, I'll hand it off.
Thank you, Justin. And Lawrence?
Yes, good evening. My name is Lawrence President. I am a human resource specialist slash senior federal recruitment advisor at the Office of Personnel Management. I've been at the Office of Personnel Management for about 6 years, and I serve as the one of my roles is the Pathways Program Manager for the federal government, in addition to serving as a federal recruitment advisor, where I advise federal government agencies, as well as colleges and universities about the federal hiring process. Before that, I spent 9 years at the Federal Aviation Administration as a corporate recruiter, and also I managed an intern program over there called the Minority Serving Institution Intern Program for 9 years. And this is, I believe, maybe my third or fourth time presenting with King's College, so I definitely appreciate the opportunity to return to speak to the students and the constituents.
Fantastic. Thanks you, Lawrence. Well, as you can see, we've got a great panel here today to help you answer questions, take those first steps into your career, primarily in and around the federal workspace. So with that, we'll get started. We'll talk a little bit about our agenda, right? So first part we're going to talk about is how you get started, right? What is that kickoff point? What does it look like? Second thing we're going to talk around is the certifications and security clearances you might want to consider. Next, we'll talk about volunteering and staying in the loop. Then we'll dive into knowing the virtual environment. And then last, we'll talk about the OPM program and the pathway programs with Lawrence. We'll leave a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A and answer any other questions you have throughout this session. All right, so brief introduction, a career in the federal service. A career in the federal service is a great, rewarding, and patriotic endeavor, right? You get unique opportunity to impact projects and programs that directly affect our democracy and government, right? This can provide you with countless, endless personal and professional growth opportunities, and just be able to experience, our country from our democracy level, right? This, you are having a tremendous impact on what we do, right, as a member of our society and as a citizen of the United States, right? It can support your career ambitions, support all your life goals, and it's a wonderful career choice. So how do you get started, right? The journey in navigating the federal workspace can be challenging, right? You're going to hear from our two guests here today. Three things we want to emphasize, right? Number one, do your research. Understand what type of job you're looking for, what you need to emphasize when you're reaching out for that job, right? And who do you have to contact, right? The next one is expand your network. You want to reach out to as many folks as you can. And by attending here today, you're taking that first step, right? And then lastly, asking for help, right? You've got a tremendous amount of resources at King's College and within your network that can help you get to that next step. So I think if you can tackle those three things, you'll be very successful. So what is the kickoff point? Where do we start, right? So the primary entry point for federal jobs is the USAJobs.gov website, right? This is where you go on and you do your searches to understand what opportunities are available to you. Now, this site takes a little bit of work. When you go into the site, you're going to want to spend a few hours understanding how it works, how it reads, right? It's not as intuitive as going on Facebook or going on some site to order a pair of shoes. It's very different. It has its own vocabulary, right? It's terminology. So that's what you're going to want to understand. You're going to want to do a little homework in understanding what USA Jobs is trying to tell you, right? Within the site, there are different job codes. There are different hiring paths. You want to know who's hiring this job. What is the code affiliated with this job? And what are the requirements I need to meet? When you're applying for certain jobs, there's key words, there's key factors or key things that you have to demonstrate when you're applying for these jobs. So if you need to know more, the website's on there for you, www.usajobs.gov. Lawrence, Justin, do you have anything to add in and around how to help navigate the USA Jobs website?
I would just say, put time aside to get familiar with it. It's kind of daunting the first time you go in there. But once you get sort of used to it, you can be a lot more efficient. You're also able to save different types of searches and things like that. And jobs pop up every day. So if just because you checked last night doesn't mean there's not new jobs up there this morning. So just a couple tips there.
Yes, I would like to add, definitely following up on what was just said in regards to just taking some time out to when you go in and you're looking for jobs. And then USA Jobs does have a feature where you can, you might go in and see a job and might not have time to apply for it. You can save that job. You can also save searches as well. If you're looking for a particular position, maybe in human resources or something of that nature, where you can have those jobs emailed to you weekly, however frequently you want to. But just take your time when you're applying for opportunities, and also keep in mind, we're aware that students might not have a lot of experience, so it could be volunteer experience, things you've done when you apply for those opportunities that are relevant to the position you're applying to. So just keep that in mind. And then also USAJobs.gov does have information on there as well to kind of give you some information on the hiring process as well. So just take your time and go in, and also remember that it's really about quality versus quantity, things that kind of fit your background, things that you're looking for in regards to when you start applying for opportunities.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Lawrence. Excellent points. So when you're in there, sort of like what Justin and Lawrence said, there are keywords, right? You want to go quality, not quantity. There are key terms that you have to use per each job, and you can find that in USA Jobs and when you're doing your research, right? You want to tailor each of your resumes to match the job. You don't want to make one blanket resume and apply them to all, because it's not an efficient and an effective way to get a job on the USA Jobs site, right? So read the job description, find those keywords, add them to your resume when they make sense. They do have a resume builder on there. We recommend avoiding it because sometimes it'll categorize your work in a way that you might not best want it represented. There are many examples that you can find on LinkedIn, just Google searches for USA Jobs resumes. There's a lot of people that post them on LinkedIn, right? They'll say, hey, here's what I posted, here's how I got my job, right? You want to model it off of someone that's filled that position to the best of your abilities. You want to fill out each skill section in every area that you possibly can, right? Any job, any kind of history that you had, add it in there. You also want to save it as a PDF, right? There are some formatting systems within different agencies that may not print off your resume the way you built it. So when you do it in a PDF, it always comes out in a PDF form in the way you set it up. And lastly, if you have the ability to hire a professional USA Jobs resume writer, do it, right? It's not going to hurt. It's only going to help. It's only going to lead you into a job that may be, is a step up for you, or continue on that pathway. Once you've got that example, now you know what to build off of. So next, we're going to jump into certifications and clearances. Within the USA Jobs site, you're going to be asked in around what type of job certifications that you may have and what type of security clearances you may have. From a certification standpoint, these are things like, PMP, right? AWS, ITIL, CISM. There are multiple certifications that you can get that are going to help open those doors. If you can get those certifications before you apply, it's only going to work in your favor. So when you're doing that research and you find out, oh, this is the job I want, and you look under requirements or maybe additional requirements and you see these certifications, if you have the ability to go out and get those, by all means, get them, because that's going to open that door. The next part is there's a lot of jobs within the DC or federal workspace that require security clearances. Now, if you're previous military, law enforcement, first responder, these things help, right? By putting them on, because you've been exposed to some information within our government or within our nation that allows you to have that access going into your federal job. With security clearances, you do need to maintain your references, right? You're going to want to keep a list of, 5 to 7 references that you can call upon at any time, right? To say character reference. You want to know your past addresses and you want to know your work experiences, because they will go out and find out that information for you. If you want to learn more about background checks, security clearances, I've got a link here under gogovernment.org. It'll help you navigate, what steps to consider and how to go about it. And there's also a separate website for clearance jobs only within the government workspace, and that's USAJobs.gov. So I'll pause here for a second. Does anyone have any additional questions, concerns? None? Great. We'll move on to the next one. So volunteering. Volunteering is another great way to enhance your resume and enhance your experiences and potentially open up doors for you in the federal workspace, right? Volunteering for organizations that support federal initiatives, right? When you go out there and you do Habitat for Humanity, or you do something that has some tie to the federal government or national governing body, it only boosts your experience in your resume. If you have opportunities for Peace Corps, internships, or summer seminars, all those will help open up doors as well. And lastly, and I know I echoed this once before, but again, that military, National Guard, any type of first responder experience just boosters your avenue for federal service. So next, we're going to talk about staying in the loop. When you're in the federal workspace, you need to kind of understand what's going on in the environment, what's going on in DC, what's going on Capitol Hill. This is all that people talk about at work, right? So having connection to websites, different groups that can keep you in that loop, or access to news and articles that will be able to allow you to express that to your groups or when you're in interviews, only is going to make you a better candidate, right? And so on here, we've got a few organizations and websites that you can access to help you stay in touch and keep that pulse. So here's just a few. You've got a group, federally employed women, you've got Blacks in government, you've got young government leaders and DC hopefuls. And then also, specifically on the government side, you've got Government Loop, Government Executive, Federal News, Federal Scoop, and Facebook groups. Any of these will help you get a better understanding and grasp of what's going on. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Justin Fazzari, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about the virtual environment and what you should do to prepare yourself to answer any questions about working remotely and working in the virtual environment. Justin?
Thanks, Jeremy. So, with the pandemic and all that's occurred since then, telework is prominent across pretty much all of the federal government now, widely accepted, and many of us are 100% teleworking. And we expect that to be the new normal. My agency is looking at doing 1 day every 2 weeks in the office. Agencies are going to have all their own rules, but the idea is that you're going to have much more limited time to interact with your colleagues. So having a good strategy on how to network and how to keep moving up in government is important. I work out of Denver, Colorado. There's about 2 million federal employees total. 85% of them work outside of Washington, D.C. It's a great situation for employment, but if you do live outside Washington, D.C., you should have an expectation of traveling back and meeting with the folks you work with from time to time. We can go to the next slide. So what does it mean, or what do you need to do to really maintain a healthy virtual work environment? It takes more initiative, more outreach. Me and my team, we talk about over communication. Things can be interpreted in writing incorrectly sometimes. So follow up with a voicemail or a call is always good, or a Teams meeting. All those platforms are really helpful to building a successful team, but also really learning who your colleagues are and how you work together. A couple of things you'll want to do is create check-ins with your manager on a regular basis. Show them what you're doing, that you're invested in your work. Again, over communication is key in a virtual environment because you don't catch people walking down the hall or somewhere in the office and just stop by. So very important to communicate there. Potentially prepare weekly progress reports on what you're doing so that your managers know where your focus is, and it keeps you on track. A big thing is there's a lot of assignments in federal government that don't neatly fall into anybody's portfolio. Volunteering for assignments that are sort of outside what you normally do are great ways to get visibility and show initiative. And again, if you do well in those things, you'll be the person that the managers come back to and say, we were thinking of maybe giving you this opportunity or that opportunity. And then on the same side, volunteer to help your colleagues on projects. That'll build trust and camaraderie. And again, in the virtual workspace, working together with your colleagues on projects can lead to a better outcome. A little bit of self-reflection. So make sure that you understand what are your communication strengths and weaknesses. Develop strategies on how best to connect with your colleagues. And then volunteer to do things that get you FaceTime in front of colleagues and leadership. And a lot of those are different presentations, going to conferences if possible, and of course, office meetings.
Lawrence, anything to add from your perspective here on the new normal and telework from the OPM standpoint?
You definitely said it. It's a new environment now in regards to how people work, the way people receive information and things of that nature. There's been a lot of research being done about that's happened actually about how people work, how they. It's a different environment. It's never going to be the same like it used to be. Before the pandemic, just from my knowledge and sitting in on meetings and things, a lot of agencies are coming back to work now. If they're not back, I know some at OPM, some of the executives are back in the office. We are doing things in a staggered approach in regards to when we're coming back, just like other agencies as well. So I would just say definitely for the students out there and the constituents on the line, definitely be ready to, things are different now, just want to be able to communicate effectively, be able to present yourself in a manner, even if you're not in person, and just always be professional. I would say that, and regardless, even if you're on interviews, when you're doing them by Zoom or Teams or whatever method, where you're not going in the office, just always maintain professionalism as if you were in the room, and just be flexible and productive. And we're definitely in a new environment in regards to the world of work.
Thank you, Lawrence.
And just a quick follow-up to that, be cognizant of what your managers expect. My management and my agency is very flexible. People work super early hours, super late hours. That's all changed in federal government, but there still are managers that expect you to be, available 9 to 5 and in that sort of strict schedule. So understanding expectations is key. It'll save you a lot of trouble down the line. So moving on to succeeding outside Washington. Again, just to my previous point, be available to work when your manager and team are working, and figure out that ebb and flow of what works best. Stay connected, and when possible, visit your team in DC or wherever your headquarters is. And develop your good relationships with the folks that are at your headquarters. They're the folks that know what's going on. They know the small p politics. They know who to talk to in certain situations. That'll always help you. Again, as I mentioned before, raise your hand. Managers are going to support those who support them. And so, volunteer for projects, volunteer to travel if you can, and then make sure you document it, put it on your resume, or keep a list of things that you've accomplished. That's really important. As you get into your professional life, you'll forget more projects that you worked on than you remember. And it's really important to know, what you've worked on, be able to talk about that. And then really the big thing here is networking. The beginning of your career, I think it's always important, but it's really important in federal government. You need a good group of people that you have a network around that are aware of opportunities. And I used to be in young government leaders. That would allow me to meet people in all different agencies and know about different opportunities, and kind of led to the different jobs I've had. You can't network too much, especially in federal government. It's not networking like, if you were in a sales job. And so the folks that network are really the folks that have the inside track, are able to move around and move up. And there's a lot of hiring going on right now in government compared to even a couple of years ago. So there is opportunity out there for sure. And so, you just need to network and find out what they are. We go to the next slide. Develop your brand identity. I talk about this with my team. My manager talks to me about this. You need to create your brand identity so people know what you're about, know, sort of your basic characteristics and what they can rely on you for, what your specialties are. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes reflection. It takes coaching. Look for mentors, look for people that want to coach you. It doesn't have to be something every week. It could be a check-in once a quarter. But if you're truly serious about moving up and being successful, this is something you need to focus on. And then do your research. Look at what other people have done. Ask managers that you work with, or if you're trying to get into federal government, you can always reach out if you didn't get the job and say, hey, what could I have done better? You'd be surprised how many people will be happy to share that with you. And most people just don't do it, but you can. So even if you're not getting these jobs, if you follow up enough times, folks will tell you what you're doing right and what you're not doing right. And then it's your responsibility to improve on those things. And next slide. Again, along the same theme, build your personal brand. So, what skills do you have now, and what skills do you need to learn? You're coming out of college with a degree in some specialty. You want to leverage that specialty, but also think about leadership and how you move up. How do you leverage what you've done? Some of the things Jeremy mentioned, like PMPs or other certifications, are always really helpful. But just your general attitude too, be appreciative of what you're doing and the work you're doing. There's a lot of value in federal service beyond just the paycheck. And honestly, most people that work in federal service, a lot of us make decent salaries, but we could make a lot more on the private sector. But there's a lot of value to what we do, and we believe in our missions. So find a mission that you believe in. The paycheck only goes so far. You really need to do something for a long career that you're interested in, you're good at, and that you believe in what's happening. Just a note on social media, just be careful what you post on social media. The first thing that's going to happen if your resume application gets to the desk, if I get an application, I'm going to check LinkedIn. Some people go even further and check other social media sites. I pretty much limit what I look at. anything you put out there is subject to someone looking at it. They don't need to tell you that they looked at your Facebook page. All they need to do is look at it and see something silly that you posted, and that might give them a bad taste in their mouth. So you do need to be careful on that. It's really important, and it could be the difference for you getting a job or not getting a job. And that's it for that slide. Okay, and then actively elevate your brand. So continuously manage your brand. Think about how you see yourself and how others see you. It could be very different. It could be very similar. But you want to create a very solid reputation at work. You want to reach outside your comfort zone, but keep your specialties in mind. Again, volunteer in areas where you're not well versed. No one's going to get upset with you if you need help and you volunteered for something. Make suggestions and provide justifications. When people ask you for your opinion, give it to them, because an informed opinion. But that's a way to get your voice heard. So it's really important. And then, if there are problems or things that need to be addressed, bring them up to management. And these are, real problems that maybe we could fix this, or we could do this better, or what's our lesson learned. All those things at the beginning of your career show that you're thinking outside the box, and you're not just, trying to collect a paycheck, but you really want to improve your office. And so these are all great things. Even if you continue to move jobs, you do these things, people will remember you. And like was mentioned before, you'll get nice references, and you'll be able to sort of maintain, moving up into better positions throughout your career. Thanks, Jeremy.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Before we jump into Lawrence's thing, Justin, did you want to talk briefly about the new hiring initiatives? I know we've got a session scheduled later on in our career days here, talking about the new legislation that's opened up new jobs and accelerated some of the hiring practices. So can you talk briefly about that before we jump into the next topic?
Yeah, I mean, when I got into federal government almost 15 years ago, it would take you 6 to 9 months to get hired. If you're going to get hired, you get a call out of the blue. Now it's beginning to change with the new legislation. The normal hiring processes are still there, but there's a lot of other avenues to bring people on board. We're hiring folks now within a week or two. And so this is why networking is really important, to find out about those jobs, because they get snapped up very fast. Internships, just take a job at an agency as an internship, even if it doesn't pay very much or doesn't pay at all. That'll get you exposed to what these jobs that are being rolled out. And there's a federal government has, like I said, really hasn't hired a lot in big numbers for a few years, and there's a lot of folks being hired now. So it's a really good time just to get your foot in the door. However you do it, through grad programs, through internships, it just is a matter of getting your foot in the door, and these opportunities are available right now.
Thanks, Justin. Lawrence, anything you're seeing from your side on changes in hiring policies?
I definitely echo what Justin said. Right now, the agencies are doing quite a bit of hiring, and that's because of the different executive orders and things that have recently come out. With the new administration in regards to infrastructure bills and things that a lot of agencies, as well as a lot of diversity initiatives out there, where a lot of agencies have funding, and they actually are looking to hire a lot of folks in different arenas. So, definitely now is a time that we haven't seen quite some time in regards to just the surge that a lot of agencies have in regards to them needing to hire a lot of individuals right now. So it definitely is an exciting time to have an opportunity to come work for the federal government.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, and I would just close that out by saying, if you don't know where to start, just as Lawrence said, look and see what's in the news. What's the federal government doing? If there's a big program like infrastructure that passed, there's going to be a lot of jobs in infrastructure. That might be transportation, it might be in broadband, it might be in other things. But that's a decent starting point, is to just look and see what's out there.
Great point, Justin. For those all joining us on the call today, I want to highly recommend joining. We've got another session coming later on in this career fair that's going to talk about the infrastructure bill, the Build Back Better bill. There's like Justin and Lawrence said, there are new initiatives that are out there that are opening opportunities like we've never seen before. That's shorten the hiring process, open new doors, open new avenues. So if you have the chance to attend that session, I highly recommend it because it's going to open up eyes. It's going to educate you on what's out there and what's available. Well, with that, I want to bring on Mr. Lawrence, President. He's going to talk about the OPM, the Pathways programs, and what opportunities reside for students and recent grads. So with that, Lawrence.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. This evening I'm going to talk about Pathways, the Pathways programs for students and recent grads. And the Pathways programs are just a little bit of background on when it started. It actually started through an executive order. It was Executive Order 13562 that was signed in 2010 during President Barack Obama's administration. That's what really established the framework for what we call the Pathways programs. There were programs before that as well, but they were just kind of reconfigured and realigned in order to establish the Pathways programs. But in a nutshell, what the programs are, they're streamlined programs for students and recent graduates to get started in the federal government, get started in the workforce. And it's a twofold and a win-win opportunity because the federal agencies win because they're allowed to recruit, hire, develop, and retain individuals. And it's used as a supplement to competitive hiring. So, and then also with the students and recent grads, it allows them an opportunity to get their foot in the door. And if they're looking to work in the federal government, to take a look at agencies, and agencies can take a look at them at the same time. So it's a great program. And one of the things that differentiates Pathways from other, there are quite a bit of intern programs out there, different agencies. I actually used to manage one at the FAA for 9 years. It was called the Minority Serving Institution Intern Program. But the difference between Pathways and what we call maybe some of the third-party internship programs, you'll be working for the federal government directly as a Pathways intern, as opposed to when you're doing a third party, you're working for a contractor. But either way, you know, a great opportunities to get in. But I'm just here talking about Pathways today. And that's the premier program in the federal government in regards to internship program. And it's made up of 3 different elements, which include the internship program, the recent graduate program, and the Presidential Management Fellows program. And I'm just going to break down each one of the programs. In regards to the intern program, the internship program is for current students that are currently enrolled or that have been accepted for enrollment in what we call qualifying educational institutions in the federal government. What that just means is educational institutions that have a certain level of curriculum, or that the Department of Education has deemed them to be accredited institutions. And that can be anywhere from high school on up to an individual just pursuing some sort of professional certification. Good thing about these opportunities, you do get paid. You get paid to really explore federal careers while you're still in school. So that's a great thing when you know you can actually get some experience and also get paid as well. I want to say, I think Jeremy might have mentioned something about, you know, a lot of times it's not always about the money. From my experience, by managing different types of programs, it's really the experience sometimes that can set you apart from another individual. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. And that's really the internship piece, where you know, you're coming in getting some experience. That's what it's all about with the internship piece. And with the internship piece, you have to be, like I said, you have to be enrolled at least half-time, and that's defined by the educational institution, what half-time means. So that's something that, you know, you can definitely check with your educational institution to determine how many classes you have to take to be considered half-time. In regards to how it's managed, and I'm still talking about the intern program, and really all the programs, they're managed at the individual agency level. So the agencies actually manage the program. So you'll be reporting on a day-to-day basis to a particular person at that agency. And when you come in as an intern, you can be hired on a temporary basis for up to 1 year or on an indefinite period. You can work part-time, you can work full-time. As an intern, you may have what's called an individual development plan. Some people use an acronym called an IDP. Federal government's full of acronyms and they mean different things in different places, but they're not required to give you one as an intern, but it's a great thing to have. It's just a roadmap of what you want to achieve in your career. And the good thing about being an intern, you may be able to be non-competitively converted to a permanent or term position if you meet the program requirements and if it's stated in that job opportunity announcement that you apply for. Everything is done, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, you have to apply on USAJobs.gov. And if your goal is to possibly obtain permanent employment, you definitely want to look at that job announcement to see if that job announcement allows an individual to be converted. Converted just really means in a nutshell that you can be hired on a permanent basis. So, and with that conversion, it can be good at any federal agency, but you know, it must be related to the intern's career goals and academic field of study. Now let's move on to the recent grads program. Recent grads program for individuals that have recently graduated from an institution, same thing, a qualifying educational institution. It can be anywhere from an undergraduate level to the professional certification, educational experience that individuals working towards. And here, it's a 1-year career development program. So the differentiation piece between the intern program and the recent grad intern, you really come in and get some experience. Recent graduate, you're coming in and they're looking at career development. And then some agencies might offer a 2-year program for specific occupations. Let's say if it's a highly mission critical position or mission critical occupation where it's in high demand, it could possibly be a 2-year program. Again, and this for individuals that have recently graduated within 2 years from the date of their transcript. Any type of educational experience from vocational or technical program, undergraduate, on up to, it could be a graduate degree you're pursuing or some sort of professional level certification. There is an exception to the 2-year period, and that's for my veterans out there. They would have up to 6 years for certain veterans, and veterans preference is applied. With veterans do get preference in the federal government, and that works the same way in regards to the Pathways program. Recent graduates program, the same situation, is managed by the agency, but here the interns are going to receive a mentor. They're going to have to develop an individual development plan or that IDP. They're also going to have at least 40 hours of training, interactive training during that period. It does have the opportunity for career advancement, and you can be non-competitively converted to a permanent or term position if you meet those program requirements and if it's stated that in a job opportunity announcement. I keep saying that because some job announcements might not state that you'll be eligible to be converted or have the opportunity to be hired permanently. And when I say non-competitively converted, that means that you're not going up against, the pool gets smaller. That's the thing about Pathways. The pool gets smaller. You're not competing against everyone, but you are competing against, and it is very competitive, but the pool's a little smaller when you're just going up against students and recent grads versus the general public, everybody. So, and that's the recent graduates program in a nutshell. And with the PMF program, it's PMF is an acronym for the Presidential Management Fellows Program. And the PMF program is the federal government's premier leadership development program. So here we're talking leadership development versus the recent grads where we're talking really just getting some career development, and the intern piece, where we're really talking about getting some experience. And with the PMF program, it's the federal government's premier leadership development program. It's been around since 1977, but it was revamped during the Barack Obama's administration in order for us to be able to go and get the best leaders out there with the PMF program. So the PMF program is for individuals that have recently graduated within 2 years that have obtained advanced degrees, MBAs, law degrees, MSWs, advanced degrees only. It's a 2-year leadership development program. And as a participant in this program, you're going to get a mentor, a senior level mentor. It could be an executive or someone at a higher level. And then after successful completion of the program, those fellows may be non-competitively converted as well at that employing agency. So these are great opportunities out there. You know, as of today, I think it might have been maybe 300 some odd opportunities out there under pathways. So, and all that information is located on USA Jobs. With the exception of the PMF program, it's under pmf.gov. The PMF program comes out in October, usually around the first, second week of October. And then Pathways opportunities are currently out there. They open and close daily. So one thing I would definitely recommend that we talked about earlier, and Justin mentioned it as well, having a mentor. Having a mentor is something that I definitely recommend everyone to have, even not just interns, but even individuals, career individuals like myself. You know, I definitely bounce ideas off of individuals that I've met in my career, and that's a great thing to have a mentor. But all those opportunities on USAJobs.gov, and you know, definitely if there are any other questions out there, you know, I definitely can be reached at my email or pathways@opm.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Well, we're going to open up the last few minutes here for questions. I do want to put up this screen, our contact information. You can reach out to myself via LinkedIn or my email. Justin Fazzari's got his LinkedIn out there, and Lawrence has put his email and Pathways contact information as well. I think you've heard it echoed across all of our speakers today. It's important to reach out, ask for help, research, and get those mentors, right? Don't be afraid to reach out to us, ask questions. I've already had King students reach out to me ahead of this. I continue to expect more King's College students to reach out to me, ask questions, you know, about my job field or this topic at hand, or any of our speakers today. So with that, let's back it up here, and let's open up the field to any questions that we have from our attendees.
If anyone has questions, feel free to unmute or put your questions into the chat. I do have a few questions that students submitted beforehand. One is just to get a general sense from you guys, what fascinated you about working within the federal government and having a career working for government?
I take the first of that. I started as an intern, and I got that internship through going to a job fair. So I was in grad school, you know, looking for a job in federal government, not sure what direction to go in. That first job was in housing, and then I went into economic development, and now I'm working on broadband. So a lot of different subject areas, but again, getting your foot in the door is the most important. And then you can, once you're in, then you can navigate around. Don't be too picky on getting specifically the area you want. It should be a general area that you like, but getting your foot in the door, most important thing.
Yes, this is Lawrence, President. I definitely agree with Justin. I actually started off as an intern as well years ago. I don't even want to say how old I am now, but I actually came full circle because when I was in college, it wasn't pathways, wasn't that, but I was able to come and work. I'm actually from the area, from Washington, D.C. I went to school in North Carolina, so I was able to come in the summertime and work. Always worked in HR as well when I was in the government. So, and then I actually went to graduate school, worked in corporate America. I taught for a while, ended up coming back working for the government. So I've always been an advocate of working for the government. So to me, it's you do get something out of it in regards to being a public servant, and always had the opportunity to work in the arena where I'm working with interns, and I did that in other areas, in other private sector and things. And so it's always been a great pleasure of mine to be able to work in that environment, and rewarding to me.
And to piggyback on that, there's a lot of career paths. I work with folks that have worked in federal employment, went to the private sector, came back. So it's not one career path. Once you get into federal government, there's many options and things that you can do. So I mean, if you want to move up and you take that opportunities that come, you can find a lot of really interesting things to get involved in.
Just one thing too, and again, I'm definitely an advocate for the federal government, but there's so many different jobs in the federal government. Doctors, lawyers, individuals with business backgrounds, individuals with psychology backgrounds. So it's a lot of opportunities out there. And then there's one thing called perfect fit. I found out in my time that sometimes students might not know exactly what they want to do, and maybe how they can relate that major to an opportunity in the federal government. And the federal government has a lot of different odd job titles too. So it's something called perfect fit. Is actually located on USAJobs, where you can take a look at your major, and then it will have a list of different federal government job titles if you're not quite sure where you might fit in. And that's a great start as well.
Thanks, Lawrence. Thanks, Justin. Beth, next question.
Sure, we just got one in the chat from MC. I would like to ask the speakers about career seeking skills. Specifically, I would like to know their opinion on networking. How much of finding a great opportunity is credited to networking?
Justin?
I would say almost all of it. I got my first job, like I said, internship at a job fair. That's considered networking. The job I have now, I got through, I ran a session at a conference, and I had a bunch of people on the panel. One of those folks ended up hiring me a few years later. So you can't underestimate it, but get out into the mix. And even if you get a job in federal government and you're interested in a different area, go network in that area while you have that position, and just widen your network.
Yes, I'm just echoing what Justin said, and that's true. I wouldn't necessarily say, all of it, but you can never have a large enough network in regards to just information. Information is power. In regards to someone might know something that you might not know, and somebody in a network could possibly tell you some different things. But one of the things that I definitely recommend more than anything else, and Jeremy said it, when you're applying for these opportunities, you definitely want to tailor. And then we use the word tailor/customize. That's one thing a lot of people do not do. They have one resume, they put it out there, and they just, and sometimes that works, but most of the time it doesn't. So you want to, take a look at the job that you are interested in. Think about some things that you've done that are related to those requirements. So because you do, you definitely, agencies definitely looking for individuals to have certain skill sets, and everything's in that job announcement. Everything is in that job announcement. There's no shades of gray in a job announcement. And the job announcement is just the job that you're applying for. We just call it a job announcement. So, you want to read that up and down, and it doesn't have to be things that you got paid for. It could be, you might be, managing something at your church or something, or anything that's related that you can put down, or manage different projects. I've definitely worked with students for quite a long time. So just think about some things you've done, and definitely look at those keywords that are in there, and think about some things you've done that you can relate that to, and just apply.
Great point,
Okay,
Josh.
I
Great point.
want to thank Jeremy for his moderating and the work that Justin and Lawrence put into this thing. I think it was a great session, a good start to our session. I just want to make a quick advertisement. We've got session 2 starting at 6:15 tonight, which is resume and interview tips. And then the next 2 nights, tomorrow, Wednesday at 5 o'clock, we've got careers in government contracting in Washington, D.C. and beyond. And at 6:15, it's making it happen, graduate or law school while working full-time, story of work-life balance. And then on Thursday, session 5 is at 5 o'clock, which is healthcare career opportunities in the greater Washington, D.C. area. And then at 6:15 on Thursday, our last session is how recent federal legislation to rebuild our infrastructure and meet the competitive challenge from China will create millions of good jobs in America. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for participating tonight, and I hope to see some of these same names in some of the other sessions.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Go Monarchs.
Thank the presenters and the rest of the KWAC group. Thank you so much from all of us here at King's, and looking forward to the next sessions as well. But Jeremy, Justin, John, of course, and Lawrence, thank you so much for such great information, echoing everything that we tell the students as well. So thank you all so very, very much for your great presentation. And I know some of the students have been typing in the chat their thank yous as well. So thank you all.
Yeah,
Great evening.
thank yous and handshakes. So thank you so much, everybody.
And reach out.
Definitely.
Great job,
reach out.
gang.
Yeah, stay in touch.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Beth, I'll see you and Rose in the next session, I
Few
guess.
minutes.
Yep, okay.